Let's dig deep. Well, one of the biggest problems with the cancellation of the XL pipeline is that it is emboldening the left. They've just had a huge victory. They know it, and they want more victories. They want to shut down more pipelines in hopes they can force us all to go carbon neutral. They are intentionally driving up the price of oil, hoping we'll all decide to drive cars powered by windmills and solar panels instead.
Well, it was a big victory, but as you mentioned off the top, a federal judge has granted a preliminary injunction against President Biden's. You're talking about the pipeline.
I'm talking about the pipeline.
But I'm talking about the
oil and gas leases.
The chilling of oil and gas exploration in our country by the Biden administration. And, of course, a federal judge has granted a preliminary injunction against President Biden for basically stopping oil and gas leases on federal lands.
Right. But by the way, they didn't just kill the XL pipeline and all the jobs that went with it on the and the oil independence for North America. They've killed other pipelines recently, too. The Constitution Pipeline. There was a $1 billion, 125-mile natural gas pipeline that was going to go into New York City. Governor Andrew Grandma Killer Cuomo killed that pipeline single-handedly by simply denying the permit. He did the same thing to the Northeast Supply Enhancement Pipeline, which was also worth $1 billion. Then there's the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. That was an $8 billion project from West Virginia to the Atlantic coast. It's going to travel 600 miles. Lawsuits kept piling up, lawsuits filed by environmentalists, increased the cost, and the company just decided to abandon the project because it was no longer going to be profitable.
No, Biden has abandoned, with this energy policy, he's abandoned.
It's not just Biden. This is the entire left. This is the entire Democrat Party.
Okay.
Right? Everybody on the left, everybody that votes Democrat is opposed to pipelines, and they're abandoning good policy when it comes to oil and gas.
Well, they're abandoning those that they claim they represent, like the middle class.
Right.
I mean, they're crippling our economy, and it's everyday Americans who get hurt the most in their pocketbook because, for a lot of folks, they don't live near where they work.
When you drive up the price of gas, you're not hurting Jeff Bezos.
You're hurting the least among us.
Absolutely. Okay. The Dakota, here's some other pipelines that are in the middle of a fight for existence, for survival. All right. The Dakota Access Pipeline. Now, that is already in operation, and it takes oil from the Dakotas into Illinois. But groups are suing, trying to kill it. See, that was a pipeline that was approved by Donald Trump. Well, courts say the environmental impact study done under the Trump administration was deficient, so the Biden administration is doing another one. Basically, with the politicization of science, especially environmental science, whoever writes the report can make it say whatever they want about whether it's going to be environmentally okay or not, and actual science be damned. And look, you don't have to take my word on that. Let me just give you a couple of examples of where science has been politicized. Climate change, gender science, and the coronavirus. All of that science has been politicized, and whoever writes the report, whatever political leanings they have, is what the report's going to say.
Well, just look at, it just takes common sense to know that if you're killing all of these pipelines, how else is this oil and gas going to be transported across the country? You're going to actually be burning more fossil fuels.
Because how do you transport that oil if it's not going in a pipeline? You're putting it on trucks.
Trains.
You're putting it on trains, diesel trucks. Or if you get it to the coast, you're putting it on ships, which also run on diesel. So instead of just putting it in a pipeline that doesn't create carbon emissions in the pipeline, you're putting it on other things that create a whole bunch of carbon emissions. And you're telling me you're for the environment? You're worried about global warming because of carbon dioxide, and you're creating extra carbon dioxide to transport the oil?
And
you're a liar.
Well, then in the meantime, President Biden is green-lighting over in Russia?
Yeah, the Nord Stream pipeline. That one's fine. Because,
that doesn't cause any kind of climate change.
It helps Putin there. Okay, here's another one. The Enbridge Line 3 pipeline. That's a $9 billion pipeline. This is an expansion of an existing pipeline in Montana to Canada. Environmentalists are suing in court to try and stop that. Same company, Enbridge, has a Line 5. They are trying to build a pipeline in Michigan. Well, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who is the second worst governor in America, ordered that pipeline to be shut down. Now, so far, the company is ignoring her order for now, saying she doesn't actually have the authority to shut them down. But you can tell that fight's not over. That's going to go to court, too. Then there's the Mountain Valley Pipeline. This is from West Virginia through Virginia. There are several sections of this pipeline that have been approved, but are being contested in the courts. As a result, the costs of this pipeline have nearly doubled to $6.25 billion.
You know what you're exposing here is, you had the pipeline hack, the Russian, what on the East Coast,
right?
It carried 50%.
Went from Texas to North Carolina and up to New York.
So if there are this many pipelines all across our country, was that a test run? Because if they can hit all of these pipelines,
right, then we're really in trouble.
We're screwed.
And the left is not going to stop. They will not listen to reason. They will not listen to logic. They will not listen to science or the laws of physics. Their efforts hurt every one of us every time we go to the gas pump or heat our homes. Their efforts to stop progress hurts all of America, and they're not going to stop. By the way, if you want to read more about these pipelines, the Washington Examiner did a story on them. You can find it at the Washington Examiner's website, WashingtonExaminer.com.
What are we going to fly airplanes on? What, Air Force One?
You're not supposed to fly those. Those are bad for the environment.